All right, bro, you deleted her pictures, you blocked her number, you stopped checking her profile every single day, and somehow she still lives rent-free in your head. It may not be weakness, and it may not be obsession. It may be something deeper. Let me explain why you still think about your ex. Here's my first point. You're not missing her. You're missing the version of you that she bought. When you were with her, you felt seen, you felt desirable, you felt valuable. And when she left, it felt like all of those things that you felt about yourself left too. See, you're not just grieving her in the relationship, you're grieving how she made you feel. You're grieving the version of you that you were with her. That connection became your mirror and it shattered. And I get it. Guys, we do not get a lot of compliments. And let me just pause right there by saying that you guys compliment me all the time on these videos, on how much it helped you and things of this nature. That is not a light thing to me. And I truly appreciate you guys. And I just wanted to put that in this video because it felt appropriate. I didn't want you guys to think that somehow I didn't feel appreciated by you. But I get it. When it comes to our actual romantic relationships, the typical man doesn't feel appreciated very much. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know exactly why, because the honest and simple truth is maybe you didn't do enough for her. But odds are you probably did if you're just the typical guy. And those small little hits of dopamine that we get from women that compliment us, especially when we actually care about them. God, I wish that women truly understood what the smallest compliment does for the men in their lives. We will remember that forever. We get compliments so rarely that I can still remember years ago, decades ago, the compliments I was given by my exes, by my dates, and I still remember how they made me feel. So ladies, listen, if you're watching this, do not hesitate to thank your man, and not just like, oh, I appreciate you, fixing dinner tonight or something like that. But what I mean by that is maybe don't get him just a tie or just a belt, for Father's Day or for his birthday. Get him something that that he'll actually like. It's little things like that that show you're paying attention to us. And I know that it goes both ways, but I just need to say it. Oh, and by the way, you want to change your man's life, ladies? Buy him flowers. I've never been bought flowers in my entire life. Every single relationship I've ever had, I've always wished that she'd buy me flowers for Valentine's Day, for my birthday, or something like that. And I've never had one. So ladies, listen to me. Get your man flowers. He'll appreciate those too. All right, back to the video now. Another reason you can't stop thinking about your ex is that you haven't gotten the proper amount of closure. Now, just because things ended, even if they ended horribly, doesn't mean that you were given closure. Now, closure is a two-edged sword, because if you're not given it, you can be damn sure they didn't get it either. Even if they were the ones that literally would text you something like, hey, we're done, and then never talk to you again, that's not closure. That's not them controlling Jack. What that really is them running as far and as fast as they possibly can from the fallout of what they just did to you. So yeah, even at their worst, if they didn't give you closure, you can be sure that they didn't get closure either. Because what ends up happening is the human mind will loop when it doesn't understand something. It's like it encounters something that maybe wasn't fair, maybe doesn't think that's possible, and our mind just constantly loops. We constantly think about it, we ruminate about it, and we think, how could this happen? What just happened? I don't understand this. I've got to make sense of this, because if you can't make sense of what happened, moving on is extremely difficult, especially if she ghosted you out of nowhere, or she moved on, or she's in a rebound or something like that. That'll create a loop real fast. And that's why it's so hard on the dumpee to watch the dumper just jump into a new relationship almost immediately after the breakup. That's why I said at the beginning of this video, you may not be obsessed. It just looks like it, because your brain is constantly looping, constantly thinking about this person because you never got any closure from them. You're unfinished, and your mind is trying to rewrite the ending of the story to something that makes sense, kind of like Game of Thrones. God, that's one loop that needs to close. Here's another reason. You attached fantasy to her face. And I've said this in plenty of my other videos. This is called fantasy projection. It's where I take what I want in a woman and I project it out onto the woman that I'm currently dating. So when I lose her, I didn't just lose her. I lost our imagined future together that I had built up in my mind, instead of facing reality and loving that person that I was actually with. Because that's the deal. I didn't actually love her. I was in love with the fantasy of what we could have been. I was in love with our future. I was in love with our possibility. That's why it's called a fantasy, because it's not real. And just like we can do that, your ex could have been doing that to you as well. And the second that you didn't live up to her perfect example of a man, she left. It's more common than you think. And I think most of this is subconscious. She doesn't really realize that she's doing this. But here is what I can tell you. Every man after you is going to feel empty because they're not carrying the weight of the fantasy that she placed on you. The only way to make a fantasy go away is to emotionally ground it. The only way she's going to be able to deal with that fantasy after it fizzles is to emotionally ground herself. And the odds of her doing that anytime soon, especially in a rebound, is extremely low. That brings me to my next point. She doesn't just live in your head. You think she lives in your heart, but that would require emotional grounding. And this is assuming that this wasn't just a total fantasy projection that you had drawn up of her. This woman lives in your nervous system. And what I mean by that is that, you know that feeling when you scroll past a person's name, your old messages, or you're on Instagram and all of a sudden their story pops up and you hit that little twinge or that prick inside of your heart? That's your nervous system scratching your fight or flight response because it doesn't quite know how to handle that. The only good news there is that typically if it happens to one person, it also happened to the other. You get these dopamine hits every time that she texts you, every time that you guys hook up, every time that you see each other. And what happens is you start to get a pattern of this going. And your body recognizes it, right? Down to your nervous system, it recognizes the pattern. The pattern of her texting, whether it's a good morning or a good night text. That's why when you don't have those things, even for one day, your entire body is shocked. Your entire body hates it. It revolts against you because it says, hey, something's not right here. Something's going wrong. You need to fix this. That's your fight or flight response kicking in from your nervous system. It gets wired to the routines that you had with your ex. And what happens is, after that relationship ends, the withdrawal is horrible. Your body has to literally withdraw from the dopamine that you got from your ex. And that is not easy to do. That's why she lives in your nervous system. That's why you feel that prick. Every single time you see her profile picture, you see her, you hear about her, somebody brings her up. That's why it's so difficult to steady yourself or to not suddenly lash out or do something stupid like text her. What it was a chemical cycle. And breaking the bond that you had with your ex isn't just emotional, it's quite literally physical. Final thoughts. You are still thinking about her because the version of you that loved her has not been rebuilt yet. You still want to feel how you felt with her. She made you feel like you were enough, like you deserved to be loved, like you deserved to be looked at. And little bro, little sis, you do deserve to be loved. You do deserve to be looked at like you're an actual human being. You do deserve somebody that puts in the time and the effort to get to know you. And if that wasn't them, that's okay. That's their loss. You were worthy of those things before you were ever in a relationship with your ex. That's what happens when we let our value get wrapped up in somebody else. That's why it's so unhealthy for relationships, because we start to need the other person. And needing somebody, I mean, you can make the case that it's not all bad, but you end up displaying needy, anxious traits that turn the other person off, and it's kind of like sealing your own fate. And that security breeds confidence in you, which is the most attractive trait to your partner. So to sum it all up, you're still thinking about her because you don't have the confidence to realize that you are still the same person. This isn't something that's just emotional. It's physical as well, and it takes time. It takes effort. And those are the things that you're going through right now, and that he probably isn't. They're probably distracting themselves, running, and trying to move on without actually working on themselves. But you, watching videos like this, it's proof that you're actually trying. It's proof that you're not as toxic as maybe your ex made you out to be. Either way, little bro, little sis, you've got this, and I've got you. I'll see you in the next one.